Hello, my lovelies! Mensa-chan here. So, about a year ago, I made a little tutorial video about KalidoFace, a web-based VTuber software that lets you animate your VRM with motion capture with just a webcam. Damn, I changed a lot within a year, huh? Anyways, since the developer of that app has moved on to other projects, Kalido is not really getting support and updates anymore. So, I'm showing you today a wonderful alternative called XR Animator. I want to preface that it also has a web app that I will link in the description. It works pretty well, but if you want the full experience, you need the desktop app. XR Animator is also completely free, so please go give some love and support to the creator. Their Ko-fi link will also be in the description. In this video, I will start with the very basics like getting your model loaded and animated. Then I will slowly build up to more technical and intricate functions like mocap adjustment and UI option. Let's get started now, shall we? Okay, so here is what it looks like when you open the app. A transparent window with the start button and a little text on top. As it says in the box here, you can either press start to load with a placeholder model, but if you have your own model, you can simply drag and drop it like so. Then let's press on that big ol' start button. Now we have our model doing a little idle animation. We have a little text box here, and we have a UI with 8 buttons interface. The little thing in the corner is to resize the window. Right-click moves the window. Left-click rotates the model. And if you control-click, it pans it. So this is very useful if you want to move your model a little bit. You can also use the mouse wheel to scroll in and out. Awesome. Let's take a closer look at these little buttons here. The streamer mode will be very useful, but before we can use it, we will need to set some things up first. First of all, let's click on that webcam icon. Let's double click it. And then we can enable either a camera or a media file, but we will say yes. I prefer to flip the image. Now, I personally have a lot of inputs because I use a lot of different cameras and virtual cameras. Simply pick the webcam you usually use. Now, we can go to the mocap button, the little blue guy in the center. Let's double click that again. Now we have a lot of types of mocap that we can select. If your PC is a little bit old or doesn't perform the best, I suggest you go with either face only or face plus body. For the sake of the demonstration, I'm gonna go with the full body mocap. As it says here, it asks you to make a comp face. Let's do that. And there we go. Now that it's calibrated, we have our model animated. Voila! We are now animating our model. If you want to directly use this as your source for recording or streaming, you might want to remove a little things from the UI. Let's start with the wireframe. To do this, double-click the UI button, double-click again, then go to UI and Overlays. We can now toggle off the wireframe display. Boop! To hide the UI overall, there are 2 ways. You can either click the first option that's just there, or you can simply press the escape key anytime during your playthrough. Boop. There we go. And then it's as simple as to add the program as a window source on your recording or streaming program of your choice, like OBS. Since it's transparent, there's no green screening to do. Now that we have selected all of our little inputs, next time we'll be able to use the streamer button right there. All you need to do is double click it and it will select the last camera and mocap option from last time. If you want to use another program as a Steam input, for example Vinian or Warudo, there are options for that, but we'll talk about those later. I'll explain the steps at that timestamps. But before we get into that, I want to talk about I need to start this section by prefacing this. All AI mocap is very efficient and accurate, but you need to help it to make sure that you get the best tracking possible. Make sure you are in a well-illuminated environment, preferably with a light source directed at you like your ring light. Having a blank background with nothing moving will also make sure the camera isn't somehow picking a swaying plant as your arm. Also, don't wear overly baggy clothes. A simple t-shirt works best when it comes to upper body tracking. Now that we've got that out of the way, let's make our tracking even more efficient with XR Animator. I will assume that most of you using XR Animator will be like me, sat behind a desk. Therefore, you're maybe a little bit close to the camera. That sadly can make some stuttering happen, as you can see here. But do not fret, there are ways to help that. Let's start by going into the motion button. Initially, our model is automatically in full body mocap. Select 2 for upper body mocap. As you can see, the stuttering is now way less. But we can make it even better. Let's go back to our mocap button. And this time we'll go to options. There are many things there and it might seem a bit overwhelming. Don't worry, I will focus on the one I use the most in each category. If you're curious of what a specific setting does, just hover your mouse over a function and there's gonna be a little text box to explain what it does. Okay, first of all, let's go to the body tracking options. The first thing you'll see is AI quality and Z-depth scale. To put those simply, the higher those values are, the better the tracking will be. But it will also take more from your computer. So depending on how much of a beast your computer is, you might want to tweak those settings. The arm horizontal offset is made to correct your arm to shoulder ratio. For example, if you're trying to clap and your hands are doing their thing, you might want to fix the offset. The limb entry and return settings define how fast your model starts or finishes a hand motion when it enters or exits the camera frame. You might think that the lower the number, the better it's gonna be. But having it lower also increases the chance of false positives, making your arms stutter a little bit. So it's really trial and error, depending on your environment. I will leave the rotation offset and hip adjustment for another time and move on to the body collider. To make it simple, colliders are sort of invisible boxes in and around your models. And these boxes make sure that some parts of your model don't go inside other parts of your model. For example, I am well endowed, so my arms kinda face through myself sometimes. We have ways to fix that here. I can adjust the chest collider. Ta-da! My hands are no longer being swallowed by the boob edge. The waist and hip collider are also very great if you have a very poofy skirt or just, big hips. In the hand tracking options, there are only two things that I want to highlight. All of those settings are useful, but I really want to focus on the one I find more practical when you start with the application. The first option I want to talk about is the hand-shoulder scaling. Because, surprise, surprise, we're not all shaped like our avatars. This setting will help you place your hand further or farther from your avatar. So, if for example, you're trying to eat and your hand doesn't quite touch your mouth, this is the setting for you. The other setting I want you to take notice is the arm stabilization. This one is pretty self-explanatory. It prevents your arms from flailing around when your hands pop in and out of the frame. We now move to the face tracking options. I normally don't need to tweak anything in this section, but if for some reason you notice that your model blinks weird or even doesn't blink at all, you can either synchronize the blinking or simply have it blink manually for you. Doing this though, you sadly lose the ability to wink. If your mouth is acting up too, you can play with the mouth tracking sensitivity. Finally, if you put your camera at an angle, it can skew the tracking and the proportions. You can use the webcam angle offset correction to fix that. And here we go! With all those fine-tuning options in XR Animator, your model should now be tracking you more accurately and more smoothly. And if you're still watching, I want to take the time to really thank you for making it this far. It really means a lot to me. Don't forget to also, like the video, subscribe if you want to see more content like this. It means a lot to me, more than you can think. Okay, the tracking is super nice, but sometimes you don't want to be just, standing there. We can use some poses and animations to feel a little bit more dynamic and lifelike. To access them, we can simply go to the Motions tab that we went to earlier. Here we have a list of static or dynamic poses. I invite you to try them out by either clicking them or using the numpad and see the one that's best for you. One nice thing about XR Animation is that it will still track your movements. For example, even though I am in this prone motion, I can still move my arms about. Once they're not tracked though, they simply go back to the preset position. For this part, I wanted to talk about some settings that can really elevate the XR Animator experience. But they don't really have a common theme, so I just crammed them in here. The first of them are the UI options. There are some that are a bit harder to find, and I wanted to show you the ones that really improve my time. You might have noticed that every time you click on a button, there's this whack sound. I don't like having my UI making sound when I'm trying to, discreetly change something midstream. To remove that, go to the UI options, then UI and overlays. And from here, you can turn the UI sound effects to off. Ah, sweet, sweet silence. In the UI option, you also have access to visual effects, such as bloom, light direction, and depth of field effects. Let's now go to that VMC button I talked about in the beginning of the video. Basically, this is where you will set up your VMC protocol if you want to send the motion data to another program. Every program has their own way of receiving the VMC data, so I'll focus on the setup from this end only. Make sure you have the right port number here and that you have the right app selected here. Once that's done, you can simply click VMC protocol on. I also suggest turning off the 3D avatar display so it's less data consuming for your computer. And there you have it. Congratulations! You now have all the basic knowledge and more to start using XR Animator. As you've seen, I haven't gone through all of the functions available, so if you have anything in particular that you'd like me to talk about, please let me know in the comments. I was thinking of making a part 2 to talk about environment and 3D props because yes, this is also handled by the platform. But I would love to read your input in the comments. Thanks again so much for watching, and I hope to see you in my next video. Goodbye, my lovelies!